you had a democratic revolution, but it was hijacked by the clergy in 79. So this boosted a wave of Islamic fundamentalism in the whole region. And if Iran tomorrow goes beyond that stage and gets to a real democratic transformation, this will definitely be a decisive blow to the regional spread of Islamic fundamentalism. That would be a definite blow to all forms of despotism in the region, and would very much increase the democratic aspirations, and that would be a huge step towards the emancipation of women. We are speaking of a part of the world where the condition of women is one of the worst. I mean, it is the worst part of the world. And I mean, this part that goes from the Eastern Mediterranean to Afghanistan, if you want, you have a huge lot of women oppression concentrated in this part of the world. And if this starts to crack, that would be a huge, absolutely huge thing. And in any event, I wrote from the beginning of the movement in Iran that really I mean, you have this very profound idea that was expressed from the 19th century that the status of women is the main criterion for the degree of advancement of societies in some way. It's a key, absolutely key criterion. And there is no real emancipation of any society if half of the society is not emancipated. So women's emancipation is decisive. And because they are more oppressed than the rest, they are, in some sense, they have to be at the vanguard. They have to be a key driving force of any emancipation. So the fact that it starts with women in countries like Sudan or Iran, where we see a major role of women, this is very promising, at least as a trend, historical trend. I mean, what is common between Iran and the Arab region is the social economic problem and all that, which relates also to the crony capitalism, corruption, and all this. These are features that are common to all these countries. And they translate into this slow economic growth, and therefore the increase of unemployment and such problems, accumulating. Now, the Iranian regime is very specific. There is nothing like the Iranian regime in the Arab countries. That is, I mean, this very ideological regime, religious fundamentalist, but resting on the clergy itself and apparatuses that were developed by what was called a monarchy in Iran. It's not a monarchy, it's a monarchy. So this is quite specific. And also the regime has used the oil rent, which is also a common feature between Iran and several Arab countries. The regime used the oil rent in buying for itself a constituency. So you have a popular constituency, which depends on the regime actually for its living, that goes through the. So you have part of the population. I don't know. It has been estimated. I read one estimate 20%. I don't know if 20%, 30%, but there is definitely a part of the population that is linked to the regime. And the Pasdaran, the Basiji are the armed wing of the regime, and at the same time a major mediation between the regime and this constituency, because the Pasdaran themselves, that means a lot of people, that means families, so that's a lot of people who are linked, who live from the oil rent through the regime. So that's a major block. And now at the same time, so this is very specific to Iran. You don't have this in the Arab countries, which means also that I would say if you have an ideological crisis, a loss of legitimacy and all that, that might affect the Iranian regime. That plays a role. And that's also what we mentioned about possible cracks in the regime and all that. So it is at the same time, yeah, I mean, the regime is probably stronger than Arab regimes because of this constituency and because of the ideological factor and all that. At the same time, it can be also, it can turn into a breach. If it is breached, as I said, it can become actually a weak point. So you see how it is about this. About the movement itself, yes, it is not organized, it's not centralized. It's at a level of close to spontaneity, well, with a minimum of coordination, I think, through using the social media and all that, but that's minimal. That is double-edged. One edge is that it's a strong point against the centralized repression. That is, the regime is, finds it more difficult to deal with a decentralized movement that was a centralized movement where they can strike at the center, right? So it is actually good for the movement, but at the same time, that weakens the ability of the movement to achieve something. And here, I think the Iranian youth should pay attention to the Sudanese experience, where the youth in Sudan created what they call resistance committees. And you have a whole network of committees, and that drew thousands and thousands and thousands of people, tens of thousands and more. Decentralized, but with a very close coordination. Now, of course, you have to find the technical ways to do it, but they have, through social media, Facebook or blah, 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 they have this kind of coordination of resistance. So the resistance committees are in the neighborhoods. They are grassroots organization. They deal with a number of things at the grassroots level, but then you don't have a leadership, but you have a coordination. They coordinate through the social media, and they acted really as an organized movement. And that's why the movement is carrying on. Now they are facing a military dictatorship. So it's not, which has been there for 30 years of the military in power. It's very difficult. And again, there, the only, I think, hope they would have would be a split in the, some cracks in the facade of the military, which hasn't happened yet, and they managed to maintain. So that's why you have a kind of locked up situation. The situation is blocked. Military, the dictatorship is there, the popular movement is there and continuing. The military are not able to suppress the movement is not able to remove the military. And so we are in this kind of situation. We've been like this for a year now, a full year. A full year it has been like this. The anniversary of the coup will be on 25th of October, actually. So that's this. Now, Iran, as I said, there might be even better prospects in the face of the regime because of these, because of cracks also the regime had with the in 2009, and then the difference between so-called reformists and the hardliners. So it's not a monolithic regime that you have in Iran, and that's a source of a possible achievement. That's important. So that's would be my thoughts about how the Iranian situation compares to the region. Well, of course, the Western countries' relation to the Shah was very different from their relations to the present regime in Iran. The relation to the present regime is antagonistic, especially the United States. Whereas the Shah regime was a vassal in some way, of the United States, even though it had its own ambitions. But it was part of a regional system of which the United States were the overlord, and that included the Saudi kingdom, that included the Gulf monarchies. They were all under the overlordship of the United States. So the United States, of course, that was the Carter years, and Carter had made human rights very much his key ideological signature. That was meant to be against the Soviet Union, but when you had the thing in Iran, there was, of course, no encouragement for the Shah, or no green light given for any repression. And they didn't, I presume they didn't expect it to turn so much anti-American. Even Khomeini at the beginning had a kind of democratic discourse, we want democracy, constituent assembly, and all that. The shift came later on with the Imam's line, the students, the blah blah. So you had a shift which of course meant that for the United States it was a major setback in the region. Now the situation is very different. The United States, all the Western countries, they support the movement. I think the only impact they might have would be to threaten with even harsher sanctions if ever the repression, to let the Iranian regime know that if it commits, if it carries on killing, and if it widens the scope of the massacre, it won't be unpunished. It will be a very heavy cost to pay for that, which will weaken the regime itself. This kind of attitude may embolden the reformist wing or whatever. The part of the regime that would like to get more moderate and more opening, which is something that might help the movement, progressing, building up, and all that. But but of course, all this is within limit. And we see that today the regime is strengthening its relations with Russia. In a way, it was strengthened by the weakening of Russia, because Russia, as we can see now, needs the Iran more than the reverse. This can be jeopardized by the continuous massacre if ever the Western countries put their pressure on that. So we'll have to see what happens at this level. But of course, the regime won't have anybody to rescue them if needed. That is, you can't have a scenario of Russia intervening in Iran as it did in Syria.